So you have three ordinances regarding the Northwest. And I've outlined kind of the key takeaways for you in the notes, and you also have, let's see, pages 193 to 195 in your textbook that goes over this. A pretty good map is in your textbook, and also on the PowerPoint slide if you want to see it, if that's helpful for you, kind of that visual image. The key takeaway for the 1784 ordinance is that how we view the size of this area. Remember, we had that proclamation line of 1763 that was put in place by the British that created a line where there'd be no white settlement past that line. And once the revolution ends, the colonists now, Americans and the United States, they get rid of that line, like quick. Like, how can we figure out how to settle this territory? And so that's the key takeaway of the 1784 ordinance is right from the get-go, we're thinking, how can we expand? How can we grow? The Jefferson suspects that this will be 9 states, and ends up being 5. But we only have 13. So right from the get-go, we're thinking about nearly doubling the size of our country. The 1785 ordinance, what's significant about that one is kind of who they think should settle here, because the amount of money that you're going to need to purchase land there. That said, though, as I noted in the notes, the sale of every 16th section will fund public education. So as somebody who did public education all the way through and plans to be teaching there for as long as I can, I'm a pretty big proponent of public education. So again, I think that's pretty cool. Before we even wrote the Constitution, we had protections or ideas of educating the public. The real key part, though, is the 1787 ordinance. There was some debate because people didn't want that land to be settled by people who enslaved others. So they wanted that to be free territory. And so a compromise was brokered, and it is agreed that the land north of the Ohio River will be free. However, the compromise is that any enslaved peoples who run to this free territory by law will be returned to their owners. And so that's why in the notes I put free in quotation marks, because really this land isn't free. And in fact, this is ultimately going to be in the United States Constitution, this fugitive slave law. So we'll talk about free states and slave states, but really there's no such thing in the United States. In fact, we really should say slave states and not slave states. But it makes us feel better, I think, if we think about some states in the United States being free, when in fact there's no such thing, because any slaves who run to that supposed free territory by law would be returned to their owners. Okay, again, if you've got any questions, you can put those in the discussion board that goes along with this lecture module. Take care.